Let's now look at other matters. Nigeria now has a national framework on access to work scheme for persons with disabilities. This policy document will guarantee the full implementation of relevant provisions of the Disability Act. Sarah Ayeko reports.
Around the world, civil society organizations have embarked on campaigns calling for an increased inclusion of persons with disability in workplaces. Here in Nigeria, lawmakers passed the Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities Act into law in 2018 with the hope to bridge this gap. The lawmakers then gave the state government about 4 years to adopt and implement the new law. But 6 years down the line, there has not been any significant change. In Nigeria today, only about 2% of the over 35 million persons with disabilities are able to access formal employment, although they are eligible for such opportunities. And that's what this framework will be addressing.
To us in the disability community, this is a gross underestimation because what is the percentage, for instance, of persons with disabilities generally in the Nigerian population? If you say only 5% are going to be considered for employment, what happened to the many others? But it's good to start from somewhere.
According to reports from the Commission, the private sector can't bear the burden of assistive devices and technologies required by persons with disabilities. To ease that burden, the Commission has committed 50 million naira as a take-off fund to procure assistive devices and technologies for persons with disabilities.
It's not a declining number, but it increases every day. Aging, accidents, wars, and all manner of disability causing situations happen every single day. And so if we make Nigeria work for persons with disabilities, we're making Nigeria work for all of us.
The commitment from different angles, the private sector and then the commission that's representing the government, I'm optimistic that this is going to be different and we'll have more opportunities for persons with disabilities, getting employment in the private sector. Society that is not inclusive is not a truly civilized and a developed society. So inclusion is good for everyone.
And for us, it gladdens our heart inside us that the National Commission is not just allowing the burden of employing persons with disability to the private sector or other potential employers of persons with disability, but actually coming alongside to provide the assistive devices that these people require to function effectively in their work.
The Commission has also inaugurated an implementation committee to ensure a 15% reduction in unemployment among persons with disabilities, strengthened economic inclusion, and increased tax revenue. Sarah Ayeko, TVC News, Lagos.
Technical assistant to the National Commission for Persons with Disabilities, Dr. Adebokola Adebayo, joins me on the news at 7 for more. Nigeria signed the Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities Prohibition Act in 2018, and the expectation was that states across Nigeria would at the very least adopt and then domesticate the act. What is your assessment of state government willingness to include PWDs in governance and employment opportunities?
Okay, thank you very much for having me. We thank the federal government of Nigeria under the President Tinubu for giving us this enablement. As we speak, close to 24 of the 36 states enacted their disability laws or are in the process, the legislative process of doing so. And so we hope that in the next few months, most of the 36 states will have done that. That's the first step. So the National Commission will then call a forum. We set up a forum of the National Forum of Disability Agencies by bringing all the heads of these disability agencies together to share these policies with them, to keep them up to date with the current policies, including the one on access to work, which was just been launched today. So we expect that through this governance structure, more persons with disabilities will be involved in the management, of their own affairs, both at the national level and at the state levels.
All right, let's now talk about the National Framework on Access to Work Scheme for Persons with Disabilities. How will this really work, knowing we have 36 states and the FCT with public and private sectors involved?
Okay, well, the framework is designed in such a way that it promotes a partnership, a collaborative partnership between the government, either at state or federal level, and the organized private sector. The aim of the scheme is to help private sector employers reduce the burden of the cost of the assistive devices and technologies that will be required by employees with disabilities when they are again, fully employed in such organizations. So we know the high cost. Most of these devices are imported. The high cost of importing these things, private businesses may not be able to take that all alone. So government is collaborating with them to share this cost, and ensure that we create more opportunities for people with disabilities to be employed. And so at state level too, we expect, like in Lagos State, for example, there's a disability law in Lagos State. We call it the Special People's Law. We have a Lagos State Office for Disability Affairs. And so we expect, being the commercial nerve center of the country, the Lagos State government, for example, will be able to reach out to the private sector in this respect. Ditto with other states, Rivers State, Enugu, Sokoto, and so on. So we expect that all state governments will be able to key into this.
All right, and we hear that about 50 million naira has been earmarked, for this project. Is this enough to serve all PWDs who are eligible for employment opportunities?
No, definitely it's not enough, but it's a good way to take off. We are going to do a pilot stage where we'll hope this money will support, and then we'll evaluate to see where we need to, cross the T and dot the I and make some improvements. So the 50 million, of course, will help to kickstart on a pilot phase, but we expect that the government, by the time the state governments come on board, by the time other institutions and levels of government, even the local governments, will not be left out. By the time all hands are on deck, we hope that it won't just be the National Commission for Persons with Disabilities that is championing this. We expect everybody to be on board. And we even expect some of the big players in the private sector who may not need this kind of support. Some of them can actually afford to buy assistive devices for their employees with disabilities. There are some, especially the medium and small scale employers, who may not be able to afford. They will need more. So the big players are expected to put in more resources to raise the funding for this scheme.
All right, then. Technical assistant to the National Commission for Persons with Disabilities, Dr. Adebukola Adebaya, thank you very much for your time on TVC News at 7.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.